All right, this vote is continuing in the House right now. It's a House vote to hold the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, in contempt of Congress after the Justice Department refused to comply with these subpoenas demanding audio recordings of the president's interview with a special counsel investigating his handle of those classified documents. One notable no vote from Republicans, the only one that I can see right now, that would be Dave Joyce of Ohio. We are waiting here for Nancy Mace, how that went. She'll be joining us shortly. Right now to Aishah Hasnie on what's at stake here. Aishah.
Here we go. So, Neil, this has passed now. The final vote is 216 to 207. As you mentioned, Joyce from Ohio is the only Republican no vote. He decided to buck his party. There were at least 6 members early this morning that were still undecided, sort of on the fence, and all but one, all but Joyce, voted with their party. Now what happens next? You were talking with John right before the break about the DOJ probably not likely to go after their own boss, right, now that this contempt vote has passed. But here's what could happen. There is an alternative road for House Republicans. Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna of Florida is vowing to force a vote on an inherent contempt. This is different from what we just saw happen on the House floor. Inherent contempt basically means that if it passes, it would direct the House Sergeant at Arms then to go and arrest Merrick Garland. So essentially the House would be doing the job of the Justice Department. We don't know if it's going to happen. She's certainly vowing to at least use a privilege motion to force this. And if she does that, then in the matter of 2 legislative days, the Speaker of the House would have to bring that to the floor for a vote. So if that happens, this drama goes on with AG Garland. Neil? In the meantime,
but I understand then that every Democrat has voted against this, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
yes, that's right, and there were absences today. So earlier on, we were it's all about the numbers, as Chad Pergram likes to say. Earlier on in the day, we were watching, and there were about 7 on each side that were missing. And then many of them came back, Nancy Mace among them. She had a big primary last night that she won, and she is now back in town and voting as well. I know you're waiting for her. So many members had come back, but there were still Democrats missing, and I believe Speaker Johnson was only going to be able to lose 4 Republican members today on this vote, but he only lost 1.
Got it. I wonder if their view, that is the Democrats' view, is typified by Congressman Jerry Nadler of New York. I guess he's the top Democrat on this Judiciary Committee, and he was quoted saying the Attorney General has substantially complied with their every request, referring to Republicans. He went on to say that the Justice Department under President Biden has cooperated far more extensively with the requests from Republican lawmakers than it did under the Trump administration. They keep pounding that, the double standard here.
Yeah, they do. They say that, look, we've already got the transcript, and there goes Speaker Johnson right behind me, back to his office. They've been saying over and over again that you have the transcript, but what Republicans keep saying is that the transcript in black and white in print doesn't share those ums and those moments of silences that President Biden might have had. Maybe he was trying to answer a question and he paused for a very long time, and perhaps that would show even further that he's struggling there in terms of his memory or mental acuity. And that is what Democrats are afraid of, that they would take this tape and splice it and dice it in whatever way that they want and put it into political ads and use that in an election year. They're also making the case that, look, Republicans, basically bucked all these subpoenas that we issued during the January 6th investigation. So why are they now going after Merrick Garland for not handing over these audio tapes? And Jim Jordan took that on today and said, I never bucked it. I never said that I wouldn't testify in front of the January 6th committee. I just wanted to know what the parameters were. So there's been a lot of arguments made back and forth. But now Merrick Garland, the AG of this administration, has now been held in contempt, a big historic moment here in the House, Neil.
Yeah, it's only happened a couple of other times. But actually, It does feed a paranoia here, or that a suspicion, whether justified or not, that the White House or the Justice Department might want to hide something because these tapes are that bad, or the president appears that out of it. And in an environment where lately we've gotten some examples of that disturb some people and embarrass some Democrats and make them worry for Joe Biden and whether he's up to the job, whether that's fair or not, this is going to refuel all of those suspicions again, right?
Yeah, look, if they can't get a hold of these tapes, and they'll never really be able to match and make sure that those transcripts are correct. They're a bit suspicious of these transcripts. And again, they want to know more of the details, those pauses, and what else was going on in the middle of those answers. But yes, I mean, Chip Roy, I believe, said today, what does he have to hide? If he's not releasing this, and there must be something that they don't want us to hear.
All right, Aishah, great reporting as always.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.